Is it? And I can imagine that um, I kind of just exposed you to like music at a different level. But did it like when
Hmm.
does like hip hop or stuff like that start to come into the picture? Because usually, as you're getting into the teenage years, you move along in school. Do you start to like form your own taste of music at this point, or is it more immersed into the steel pan world?
Steel pan was more like of a hobby because I'm still here in New York. So even though that's a big part of who I am, the stuff that's playing on the radio, the stuff that's so my mother worked for a magazine. She was the editor in chief of a magazine at the time. And pre-streaming, downloading music, the labels used to send out free CDs to
Mm-hmm.
publications in order to get promotion,
Mm.
as y'all probably already know. And so my mother,
Mm-hmm.
because she used to run these magazines, she used to get free CDs like crazy. And so
Oh, so you had
the
you had
one
a shit ton of CDs with
shit
with
ton,
a whole stamper stamped through the barcode, huh?
shit ton, bro. Shit
All
ton,
the
right,
all the
right with the whole
whenever
stamp. I
all the
never knew what
promo.
that meant, but yeah, it's a fact.
That's what that is.
Hold up.
That's the
So you're
promotion.
like,
So the promotion, I could educate everybody on this
go
because
for
I
it.
used to work at the
Talk to
record
me.
labels and I worked marketing and promotion. So like this is for sure like a thing that I knew about, which is the
Got you.
fact that when they would print out the album, right, and whatever is their printout amount that they have for pre-orders from same way it works nowadays, right? Except that they were actually shipping product to the Wiz and Tower Records and Virgin Records and all these record stores that existed, and they would
Hmm.
send out. But then they would also have CD sets aside for marketing and promotion usage, and those CDs would always have the stamp hole puncher, like for the loose leaf paper, a hole puncher stamped
Hmm.
through the barcode so that you couldn't resell the
Got you. That
marketing
makes
and
sense.
promotion stuff through the same outlets that, but it was all for naught. But especially back in those like days, like New York City was
Yeah,
wild,
people are
right?
still
I
flipping.
used
Yeah.
to, yeah, I used to stay going with the marketing and promotion CDs to like mom and pop shops. I'll say that much. I won't name any names. And they would buy them from me instead of like going through the label and shit.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I would
yeah.
make a little pocket money and they would have product that they needed at a discount instead of,
It's all good,
the
bro. You can
price they
say the
would,
name.
yeah.
Statute of limitations is up, man.
No, I'm not even going to blow them up. I ain't
That's
even
Nah,
going to
fair.
blow them up.
Yeah. So basically, in the era when everybody might have been flexing that they were downloading on Napster or whatever, you were just like, it's all coming to my door, and you just got
no, this is
everything.
before
Or
Napster.
it's
This
even
is
before
before
that,
Napster. This is like the late '90s.
late
So
'90s.
Napster was '01. So yeah, mid to
Mm.
late '90s. That's when we were getting all the CDs. So I said that to say,
So this is the
my
Columbia
mother
House
was
days.
Columbia House.
I don't know if you have that in the
the
states. It was the magazine where you would like have the
the
CD shipped to
it's
your house.
you would buy one CD for 99 cents and then
That
or
sounds
buy one
familiar as
CD for
hell.
$10 and every CD after was 99 cents or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like
That
that.
sounds
Columbia
familiar.
House. It was that era. It was that era.
Okay, okay.
From what you're
Yeah, but
saying.
my mother, she would get all these CDs, and she would filter most of them. So like, if she would get like I remember getting Hard on like Volume 2, like before it came out, but she didn't let me listen to it because I had the parental advisory sticker on it. But
Yeah.
sometimes a couple would slip through the cracks, and so I would get to listen to a couple of songs here and there. So I heard Money Ain't a Thing is the first Jay-Z song that I ever heard because I had the single CD in the crib. You know, I was listening to Little Kim, Notorious K.I.M. I was listening to Nas, Stillmatic. So that was some of my early stuff. But the first album that I ever bought with my own money was, I believe, the Marshall Mathers LP bootleg. And then the first non-bootleg album that I ever bought with my own money, where I went to like an official store to cop it, was the Blueprint.
Mm.
Yeah,
So like when you were at
These are
that,
some monumental albums. I can empathize with the bootlegging, with the versus the official. My first tape was a bootleg tape. I had the
yeah,
OPP tape.
Oh shit.
Bought from the bootlegger outside the supermarket and shit.
The cassette.
My mom, yeah, the cassette. My mom
Mm.
didn't know what she was buying me. Then my older brother blew me up and told her what OPP stood for. And I got my ass beat, and they took the tape away.
Yeah.
Strict ass Caribbean parents.
Yeah, I only ever bought official tapes or off the radio stuff. There was no bootleg
Bootleg is a
guy
huge.
for
That
me in
bootleg
my
is
life.
huge in New York City. Huge
Yeah.
market in New York City.
But bros used to have the blanket laid out on the street.
Yeah.
Remember those days?
Yeah.
Had the blanket
Yeah.
laid out on the street with your CDs and your DVDs. You feel me?
Yep.
Top man.
To this day,
Those were the
Tupac is
days.
the only guy to run up on one of those guys.
For real, he did?
Yeah, he did. Like in the middle of
Yeah.
his era, like before Death Row, actually. Yeah, shouts to Tupac.
Shouts Tupac. So when you get into when you're buying all the CDs and whatnot, at this point, do you want to rap or whatnot, or are you just like a fan of the culture?
Nah, at the time I was just a fan. Jadakiss was my first favorite rapper. And I remember one time I flipped like a line that he had stuck in my head when I was like 12. But other than that, I wasn't into rap. Like I wasn't into the idea of rapping. I was just into just listening to rap and enjoying it.
But you also had the steel pans going, so you definitely had this creative outlet that you were running. And how long did you do the steel pans for?
Mm-hmm. About 4 or 5 years, from like 12 to about, I would say maybe 12 to 19, so maybe 7 years.
So it's basically like your middle and high school years.
Yeah.
That's dope. And as you're going through that, like when does the desire, I guess, to move in towards hip hop like kick into your life?
16, 15, 16. I had one of my bandmates, Chantel. Shout out to Chantel, wherever she's at. We used to just playfully like battle rap with each other.
Right.
While we used to be on our little trips, going to different shows. And then it was one day when I was in the high school that I graduated from, and one of my teachers was, we were doing poetry. I had a poetry teacher for the first time. And I think I started to realize I had a little bit of a knack for putting words together. And around that time, I ended up just writing my first verse. And my first verse was written to Alchemist Bangers by Lloyd Banks, that beat.
Right.
So that's when I was 16. Yeah.
And so from that point, are you showing it to people? Or are you kind of doing it by yourself? Or are you getting, because there's a lot of routes that can go from there.
Yeah, at 16, that first verse, I read it to my sister. She liked it, and I read it. I think I read it to my mom. I can't remember, but that was about it. And then I had a homie in school, Kish. Me and him used to kind of just like, he was into rap, and so he used to make whole rap songs. They were all, at the time, we thought it was the dopest and most fun shit in the world. Looking back on it, it was all probably garbage, but it was a lot of fun for us. And so he used to make like little diss tracks.
There we go. Then it couldn't have been garbage.
Nah,
if you were having fun, it couldn't have been garbage.
And also garbage can also be reinterpreted as raw to the music professional.
True indeed. Actually, I shouldn't be using the word garbage. I try to stay away from using that word. But since I was talking about my content, I thought it was okay.
Yeah. You felt it's okay I feel you. I do the same thing where I'm just like, man,
but then
I'm over
it's
here
like
self-deprecating. It's no big deal.
I bet your 16-year-old bars were fire for 16-year-old bars, I
don't know, bro. I appreciate that though.
There's always a glimmer of the things. Like I have a friend, my best friend, right? This was the best man in my wedding. My brother has known me since I was about 16, turning 17. You know what I mean? And to this day, that man, we cannot have more than 3 drinks before he's in my ear telling me how proud he is of me and how he remembers that I had said some line about I'm incredibly hype, like the Hulk on coke in a freestyle back when I first started rapping. That he was like, I knew then when you said that shit that you had something.
You had
You
it.
had something. You had something. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where like I don't look at that. I don't even remember that line. If it wasn't for him constantly saying that to me, I wouldn't remember that
Yeah,
line, right? But for
yeah,
him, it's one of those things
Mm.
that just sticks with him. And that was like he knew at that moment, like my little brother got something. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So like even if it wasn't like what you presently can do, right? Because we always are constantly comparing ourselves to our best. You know what I mean?
right.
You know, it might not be that, right? But I'm pretty sure that there was glimmers
Mm.
of what was to come in there. You know what I mean?
Facts.
Because
Thank you, bro.
it's like that for all of us. It's like
It's
that for
true.
all
Thank
of us.
you, bro.
And even if it wasn't that bad, I bet you couldn't write that 16-year-old stuff again. So it's almost like this moment in time piece. That's the end
Yeah,
of it.
yeah.
It would be harder for you to do
Yeah,
that now than it was then.
true indeed. Well said.
Nah, for real. I really believe in that. I've had a few moments in my life where somebody's told me the worst song in my life that I've ever made, and it's arguably everyone else agrees with me. It's garbage sounding. It was his favorite, and it fucked me up for a while because it broke all the rules. If like people can find favorites in your least favorite things, like it's kind of weird what people like in music. And then you go to avant-garde
Yeah.
Yeah,
land, and avant-garde music shows you that people like some weird stuff. But
Yeah, those is
I
facts.
think
I
it's
literally
something.
just finished sharing like a Facebook memory post that I made of like I remember when I was young and I used to love unorthodox rappers. Now I hate that shit. Rap on beat, you fucking Nancy. But like there is absolutely like I was super, when you're a teenager, you're at your most rebellious and like I think
Mhm.
that we all go through this whole huge like I hate everything in the music industry phase of our lives.
mm,
Some of us it lasts longer than others, right? But we all go through this phase, and it's usually around your teenage years when you're becoming, that teenager that's like, Mom, Dad, I have thoughts of my own, I have opinions of my own,
Mhm.
teenager, which is somewhere between 14 to 16, and then
Yeah.
it lasts definitely all the way through your like early 20s, like till like maybe like right after college year graduation type shit, you know what I mean,
Mhm.
type
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like I said, for some people it lasts the rest of the way through. But you go through, and I went through that at that time, and like I was a super huge anti everything in the industry, and was like, yo, anything unorthodox in the underground scene, I
Was your
always
shit.
gravitated towards in at that era. Um,
Yeah.
what when you were around done with the steel pan, right? When
yeah.
is it
Yeah.
that you started um getting into actually executing, doing your own thing with rapping?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a slow process, man. Honestly, shout out to your homie who never forgot your first rap. You know, a lot of it was kind of guided by homies, man. Where it was kind of I was just doing it, and I didn't have like this innate sense of, oh, I'm nice at this. I didn't think I was that good at it. But when I joined my fraternity, when I went to college, I went to Hunter College, and there was an older brother in my fraternity. He uh he was really taking me under the wing. He was the one that was encouraging me. He was like, "Yo, you got a talent, bro." It was him. It was him, and Shorty was his girl at the time. They were both like older than me in my frat, and they both encouraged me, like, "Yo, you nice. You should do that." And so I used to hop in the cipher every single day. His name was Billy the Kid. He used to have a cipher in the frat room every single day, and I used to hop in the cipher, flexing my freestyle ability. And I learned I had a little knack for it. And so I remember that first winter of college, that first winter break, I was in the crib every day freestyling over beats for like a half hour, for an hour, downloading crazy beats, downloading everything, whether it was the most gangster shit to like JoJo. I'm downloading all instrumentals and I'm freestyling over all of them. And I come back to school and I'm in a whole new bag and going crazy. Niggas is like, hold on. And so at that time, I was really on my shit. But it wasn't something where I was like, yo, I have a passion driving for this. Like
Right.
I was doing it in the ciphers, but I was so busy caught up in like school shit and like hanging out with friends and partying and things that was going on with me personally. Music wasn't really front and center, but that was the first time where I realized I had a talent, and I was doing more poetry than anything, I would really say. But I was only going to open mics maybe once or twice a year, doing open mics here and there randomly. I had a poetry group that I was a part of called the Black Hole. It was me and two of my homies. And so we used to perform every once in a while, but it was pretty much just poetry and not like super strong in the rap. So rap was kind of here bubbling underneath. You know what I mean? Like, so
Mm-hmm.
this is a weird metaphor, but Shaq poetry was my Shaq in the Lakers dynasty, and rap was my Kobe. And it wasn't until, Shaq went away that Kobe ended up being front and center. You feel me? If that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
But at that
Exactly.
first time, it was just poetry. Like, all right, this is what I'm doing. Because I couldn't even really rap. I couldn't rap a whole verse on beat, bro. Like, anytime I tell people that, they're like, yo, that's crazy. But it wasn't until like 2009 that I was able to write an entire verse and then keep the whole shit on beat. Like, it was a work in progress for me, for real.
Yeah.
Some of us are it's like that, but like not a lot of people like to give the fantasy version, right? I mean, it's not
Right.
a fantasy version. It's just
Yeah.
that it's become this kind of, there are certain tropes in the culture that we kind of like tend to recognize, right? Which is like oh, I don't even write my rhyme. I don't even write rhymes.
Or
Yeah,
Everything's in
yeah,
my
yeah.
head. I'm this incredible supercomputer, and then there's the like oh, I just started making music yesterday and I'm already signed because I'm the
Right,
greatest,
yeah.
And then there's the like, oh yeah, I just was nice off
And
rip.
those
I
and
was
those
just
stories
always
are
the
dope
best.
too.
And they are dope because it's like, yo, I
Yeah,
believe you. It probably was
yeah,
that for you. You know what I mean? But it's not
yeah.
like that for everybody. And I can empathize because it was
nah,
the same for me.
I
Like
relate to that heavy.
it wasn't like oh, this just, no, I had to practice. And it's the same thing. It mostly started out with what essentially can be described as poetry because there was no flow to what I was doing, sir. So
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
call
yeah.
that shit, let's call that eccentric shit poetry. You know what I mean? Like, there was no cadences there and shit. So, let's call it something else because that wasn't hip hop.
Right.
But I can empathize with that because it was the same thing. I had to work at that shit. And luckily for me, I was blessed enough to have many around me who nourished
Right.
and fueled what I had going. So,
Yeah.
did you say what college it was that you were at?
Hunter, right?
Hunter College.
Hunter. So you were staying in the
Yeah.
city. So you were local. So you
Yeah,
had the
yeah, I was local.
advantage of like being like, it's not like you left the city to go
Hold
like
up.
somewhere else.
Colleges in the city have frats? I don't know a lot about
Yeah,
American
man.
colleges.
New York
Yeah.
City, yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's NYU in New York City. There's like, even if you
Yeah.
were to, like the Ivy League schools, the regular schools, the all
Fair.
the
I mean,
yeah,
like I know there's like
yeah.
frats and
Right.
stuff in the Montreal stuff, but like nobody ever went to them, and that I know. Like I know like a fraction. So it's like I don't know. The whole American system's a little different.
Super.
Fraternity culture is crazier in the South. Like it's way more intense. And it depend and it also like there's kind of like a difference. Like this fraternity culture, then you got like black fraternity culture, like the Divine
Mm-hmm.
Nine. And that's like its
Mm-hmm.
own very specific historical thing. But when you talk about the South, you talk about the Midwest, and especially because people are going away. And then when you go away to college, the fraternity kind of becomes your family. Like that's it becomes
Your
your
new
support
family.
system.
Yeah, I was
Yeah, you know
literally
what I
gonna say
mean?
that it's just your new, right? Like you're thrust away from the nest and the only
Right,
family you've known your whole life, and
right.
you're thrust into your own. You're an adult. Be by yourself. The natural human instinct is to now form your own
Community,
clan and tribe
facts,
and community and family, and that's
facts.
who, you know what I mean. That's why there's so many strong bonds that are created. And the music industry, there's a huge prevalence of like the black fraternities and sororities and the bonds that are made there the way it should be, because that's the
Right,
way all of white corporate structures work, is they have
right.
their own bonds of like, oh, you went
Hmm.
to fellow hoity-toity school, sir? Like, you're also a Harvard alumni, like, and
Right.
then business gets
Yeah.
done that way. And we're talking about companies that like influence the whole entire world. So like
Yeah.
if like little old, fucking Bad Boy Records, decides to use its black college connections and shit like that to
More
further its
power.
business, it's more power. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Sorry, I went on a
Facts.
tirade.
No,
Nah,
it's a good
that's what
tirade.
it is.
Nah, to me, it's interesting. I never heard of that fraternity you mentioned. To me, it's new information. Like, it might be like regular for
Yeah.
you, but even Hunter College, I've heard of its name a couple of times. It didn't register
Yeah.
to me that that's
Yeah,
in the city.
Hunter's one of
Like,
the Hunter is, if I'm not mistaken, right? You went, right, so you can say, I think it's what you could essentially consider one of the most prestigious um community colleges. Is it a community college, Hunter?
No, it's not a community college. It's a CUNY school.
It's a CUNY.
Um,
Okay.
I don't
but
even know what that word
it is.
means.
There's like a crop of schools that are like the CUNY stands for City Universities of New York. I think
Okay.
that's what it stands for. But yeah, they're all schools that are like the
Yes.
official schools of New York City, and then you also have
Hmm.
SUNY, which are like the official schools of New
The
York
state.
State. So like
Hmm.
Syracuse, I believe is Syracuse a SUNY school? Or am I bugging?
I don't know. My wife went to Syracuse,
Okay, yeah,
but
Danny's saying it is.
I didn't ever go to college, so like I'm
Right.
not. That's why I'm always kind of playing just like guessing game what I remember of being told and shit. But word, it's a CUNY, which is
Yeah.
also a prestigious group to be bunched into. You know what I mean? Like
Uh,
it's a, I mean,
yeah, maybe.
I have a question.
prestigious, right? Like we're like it always depends. The grass is always greener on the other side, right?
True,
Like
that's a good point. Yeah.
You
if
went
you
to
went to Harvard or Yale or whatever, Princeton, like you're gonna look
Yeah, one of
down
these Ivy
on
Leagues.
anything. You know what I
facts.
mean? If
Yeah.
you went to Howard, you're gonna look down on wait, what's the other eight HU, not
HBCU. You
Hampton,
might
Hampton. You're gonna look
yeah.
down on Hampton. If you went to Hampton, you're gonna look down on Howard.
Yeah,
If you go to
Morehouse looking down
Columbia,
on
you're gonna,
Clark.
yeah. If you went to Columbia, you're gonna look down on Hunter. But if you go to Hunter, you're gonna look down on maybe like you
Listen, I
know
failed
enter
listen,
community college here. Like
I
John
failed
Jay
out
or
of Hunter,
something.
so they look down on me for sure.
So what did you study that you failed out of?
My first year, I forgot was my major was supposed to be psychology, I believe,
Mm.
but I really wasn't going to class just to keep it funky. I mean, I was spending a lot of time rapping in the ciphers and doing a lot of frat shit, so it was all for the good, but I really
Yeah.
wasn't going to class. But
I was gonna
psychology was
say,
going to be my intended major.
was that the reason that you wasn't going to
Yeah,
class? Which is
yeah.
like those
I
that
graduated in a different way, we could say.
I mean,
You
you
know,
by then I'm sure that you were, correct me if I'm wrong. You were missing class because you had already gotten your first fix of being the man with the bars.
there we go. We
I
could take
mean,
that.
and then I just
Once
like,
you get your first hit of that
and,
drug,
and
it's
if like,
another thing. You know
and
what I
life's
mean?
kind of wild,
Once you've
right?
had that feeling of a group of people in a circle oohing and
Yeah,
eyeing at the things that are coming out of your mouth, once you get that feeling, you're like, I'm not going to do nothing else with my life. Clearly, I am an orator of master status, and I must pursue this as a career. What am I
Arguably,
talking about here?
you've had quite
Yeah.
like an interesting year, all things considered, to justify the good use of time of skipping class to go be in the cipher. Cause yo, when you're like in a
yeah,
position where you're hearing a bunch of artists' life stories and they're like, "Man, I made the irresponsible." I'm like, "Did you really make that choice? Cause look at your life now. Look where you at. It seems like you made the right choice for your life." And it's
yeah.
dope. Cause like, I mean, I just watched you like on that live stream win a bunch of money on a fucking competition and stuff. So I mean, clearly, unlike a lot of people, you managed to pull it somewhere, and that's pretty
Right.
impressive.
Oh, indeed. Thank you,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah, nah, we'll get to the accolades. Let's keep on going through this. Let's
Yeah.
keep on trudging through this life story.